Hello, everybody. My name is NicholassRivas, and I talk about politics and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about the most recent Texas school banning books in the United States. A lot of these states are battling sort of censorship, the ideas of radical ideas in books. This is nothing new. I think To Kill a Mockingbird has always been. At the very least, it was banned in the 80s and 90s for its inspiration of violence. In the same vein, we're not that far from that, and we are still banning books till this day within our schools. Now, there's a debate of which books should be banned, which books are. There's a moral debate. Should we have these books? Should we let these kids see these books? Should we um, maybe wait when they're a little bit old, or maybe high schools are exempt, but other schools are not. There's this debate, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not there. But Texas has just hit the news for banning the most books out of any state. Um, the irony of this is that Texas has always prouted itself as this. We're not censorship. We're very freedom loving. But there are a lot of things they kind of shy away from, that makes them not that freedom loving as you may think, right? And so, in the case of Texas, in this situation, they have banned more books than any other state, and pathetically, still try to mask it with some sort of freedom. And like, well, it's children. You don't want children to read a book to make them the transsexual. Like that's the that's the mantra right now. It's a lot of it is very based on LGBT literature, which again I'm okay to have a debate on because I'm curious on why people feel uncomfortable with sexuality and gender, and where that does start and stop. I don't know. I genuinely cannot tell you. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I can. Like it's a debate that I think is very subjective. I think if everyone in the world got into a room and you asked everyone when should you teach a kid about sexuality, um, I think ideally you would have probably 20, 50 people saying one, and then 30, 50 people saying 2 years old is when you talk about sexual. Like I don't know. That's the thing is I don't know how people um, how subjective this is, because I mean, is there a hard science on when you should start teaching kids about gender? I don't know. I don't know, and that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that I don't have any answers, because I definitely have in my mindset a certain age where I think it's okay to um, teach children, but I also think that's my preference. So I guess let's get into the actual books that were being banned. So within Texas, they call it the Pen American Board. There was about 2,000 books from this year and last year that were banned. 22 districts in Texas banned 42 books, I think, in the last month or something. San Antonio followed with like 400. The number isn't that bad. I mean, that number's bad, but like that's not what makes me go, oh goodness, because I don't know what the books are. But when you look at it, some of the banned books are of Mice and Men, The Bluest Eyes. Now I've never read The Bluest Eyes. I know of Mice and Men. We read that like in high school. I think even maybe younger, maybe middle school. I mean, adult themes, but are they attacking that this shouldn't be taught in like elementary? No, I think they are banned throughout the whole district, which is ludicrous to me. Like, how are you gonna do that and try to prod some freedom? You can't ban it throughout every sort of you can't ban it unanimously, right? Like you can't ban a book across the board. There has to be some like access to it as a youth. I mean, these books could be even argued that like if you don't teach them, even though their ideas are harmful, at least you're aware of them as a person, as a human. You can make the decision and not be shielded from it, because I mean I think you're not giving enough credit to the youth. And also that's how you teach people, is put them in their youth, teach them what the do's and don'ts. I mean, I expect if there is a book and it's assigned, if they're teaching Mein Kampf, I imagine the teacher's talking about this is the dangers of fascism. Am I wrong? Right? Like this doesn't this doesn't yield itself to be automatically like we're indoctrinating your kids with this horrific mindset, this fascist mindset, right? Like that's what I would assume. But I don't, you know, I can't go into their minds and pretend to even think what they're even trying to propose. Looking at the list, there's a most challenge, and the list of books I'm not gonna say it's everything I've ever read. I'm going surface level with these, but looking at the titles, I go a little suspicious, might I say. The books are even though there are contentious books like of Mice and Men, of the Kill the Mockingbirds, like those books have always heavily been worrisome because of their violent um, content. There are a lot of books on this list when looking at the list that seem very bigoted, and I try to avoid just throwing everything bigoted because I'm like, oh, you know, maybe there's some thought to it, but this just seems bigoted. This just seems like a bunch of old fogies just trying to propose their fear of sexuality and gender onto kids, because that's the main premise of this whole video is like, hey, look, if you want to have a debate of when this should be taught, I get that, but these people are just outright banning books because of their fear of sexuality. It seems, you know, like these books aren't proposing violence. These books aren't asking for people to attack. I mean, the first book that I see is Gender Queer, banned and challenged because of LGBTQ content. The next book, Lawn Boy, LGBT content. Like, they're just scared of the indoctrination of gay people. That's all I'm not pulling this out of my ass. The most recent bathroom ban was all over the news. That's all people were talking about. People were talking about critical race theory. People were talking about the transgenders. That's the main thing that they're prodding all these Republican and conservative figures who do run the state of Texas. It's mainly about LGBTQ themes. And if not, then it's about critical race theory or some sort of minority voice addressing the gender issues or the race issues in our country. Like, those are the topics. And if that's what they're afraid of, then we're a pathetic fucking country. How are you going to sit there and blame, you know, the race and gender as a big violent, you know, that's our worry, is gender and race, when in reality there's kids who should be taught about these violences, should be taught about these gender questions and norms. You know, like, it just seems pathetic to this is what we're shielding our children from. This is what we're scared of. Like, let them, if your kid is that weak-minded to read a book about gender and then question their gender, then you are a weak parent. You should be able to educate your child and tell them what gender is and what you believe it should be, and any roles or what makes up gender. How do you decide your gender? Like, be an adult. But these ideas alone aren't going to be the ones to set your kids off. It's the understanding as a parent, right? And so, again, looking at these books, I just see nothing but gay books being shunned because people are scared of gay people. Just as the whole transgender debate, just as the whole critical race theory, you ask people about it and they just say, I don't like that idea, don't teach my kid. But they never give you like a teach them this at this point, or teach them about this in this way. You just get a just don't do it. And that's the shit I can't stand. But I think I'll end it here. Thank you guys so much for everything. Yabba dabba doo and gabagoo.
Fuck this shit. All units escape with evade.